Alright, so now we know for certain where we are, but we won't be leaving just yet, as Jin wants to search for answers. Apparently he can sense a familiar evil deep within the compound, though I'm more worried about those experiments. Speaking of which, here they are now. These guys like to flip around a lot, and like all the other enemies in this new stage, they block a lot more and they're far more aggressive. Their erratic movement might seem like a cause for hesitation, but we need to be sure of our attacks, that's key. You can get away with some pretty haphazard blocking in the first stage, but not so much here. I think he might have missed his mark just a little bit. So the game is done playing easy street as far as combat is concerned, and we're also going to be seeing more platforming and some light puzzle solving in this stage. This evil we're sensing at the core of the compound could lead us to a way to get rid of the devil, but somehow I doubt we're going to be that lucky. Still, it does apparently feel familiar, and we can't take any chances. With the newfound aggression, Agile Jacks are actually very formidable in this stage, and you have to be very careful when you take them on. Even the white and bluish robots can juggle us easily now if we don't pay attention. Right here we're introduced to one of the first puzzle-solving elements, though this situation is hardly a puzzle by itself. This stage is still mostly combat-focused, but the next one is an entirely different story. We should take a moment to ponder what exactly this familiar evil could be, because as far as anyone knows right now, Heihachi is dead. Maybe G Corporation pulled a Kazuya on him and brought him back to life. Though I'm having a hard time imagining why exactly they would want to do that. Though I suppose right now is the time for less thinking and more punching. This stage also introduces us to a lot more hidden paths, well, not necessarily hidden, but alternate paths, most of which you need to use the hover crates to get to. Or hover carts, rather. Jin actually moves quite fluidly in the air, which is something I'm grateful for. And here we're introduced to a new puzzle mechanic we're going to become very familiar with. Some doors can only be opened when a box is sitting on a switch. You can't see it here, but the boxes disappear after a short period of time, which you can imagine makes things kind of complicated later. Down here we're introduced to the mutant counterparts to the Jacks, and they can be real bruisers, but luckily they're just as vulnerable to frontal assault. The idea of human experiments would normally be kind of shocking, but G Corporation is not exactly known for their outstanding ethics. Though they're hardly the only characters in Tekken guilty of having some questionable morals. It can be hard to grasp how a game feels just by watching, but hopefully you can understand how satisfying this is. While I'm racking up quite a big combo, this seems like a good time to mention that the tally screen only counts your highest combo towards your score. So you can spend most of the stage focusing on surviving as long as you get one really good combo. If you care about your score at all, that is. This stage also gets into the habit of surrounding you with foes, while in the previous one they just sort of presented them to you. I'm sure you've gotten the idea at this point. The game slowly introduces more difficult and complex elements as things progress. And hopefully as they get more difficult, you gain better control of Jin, so you're ready. These guys may just be enemy goons to us now, but by the end of the game they're going to seem less like opponents and more like giant walls of difficulty. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't God Hand, but it's still pretty up there. The enemies only telegraph their attacks very briefly, so this isn't reflex-based so much as you need to have a feel for when you should be blocking. It's much more fair than it sounds. Another way to play defense, so to speak, is simply to get to all the enemies before they can get to you, because agile foes will try to swarm you, but they can't if you get to them first. You're not necessarily trying to take them out, but you get the added bonus of weakening them if nothing else. Damn, that feels good. Big enemies can be intimidating, especially when there's a lot of them, and they absolutely can plant your ass on the ground, but they're very susceptible to repeat attacks. So we're just gonna go at these guys full force and we're never gonna let up. All this combat against robots and mutants in an otherwise lonely and enclosed space would probably do horrible things to anyone else, but Jin's been through much worse. That's not to say what little kindness he has experienced has gone to waste. The oddly hopeful and uplifting music probably helps. Though the only real way to solve all this, at least in Jin's eyes, is to be rid of Kazuya and Heihachi forever, though one has to wonder whether this will actually solve anything. After all, he's only being sucked into the same spiral of violence that they are. Tekken 7, coming soon. Though I do suppose we're getting a little bit off focus, this is about a different kind of internal devil. We also can't forget about Jin's mother, though right now he seems to be swept up in a different mystery entirely. Up here we meet our old friend the access denied door. Much like last time, if we're going anywhere, it's probably there. Knowing G Corporation, they could be using this opportunity to collect combat data on Jin. I mean, they certainly haven't thrown anything at us yet that we can't handle. To be fair though, everyone in Jin's family is kind of a one-man army. Even his extended family. Maybe I'm being a little cocky though, I mean we have no idea what waits for us deeper inside the compound. Maybe horrifying mutants are just the exterior. One could hope not. I love how incredibly stylish these robots are. If you're gonna teleport into combat, you might as well do it right. All things considered, we have a pretty diverse set of enemies right now, though due to the way the game works, you're not gonna be able to see that diversity or I'd die. Trust me though, if I'd let them, they could absolutely slaughter me. Trust me. They probably only have such a diverse set of moves because G Corporation constantly monitors the Tekken competition. Or King of the Iron Fist, rather. So now that we've defeated another army of robots, it's time for the first and really only puzzle in this stage. We have to move both hover carts onto separate pressure switches, and we have to do it in a timely fashion, otherwise they'll just disappear on us. Don't go thinking it'll always be this easy, though. And with that thing destroyed, not only does the access denied door open, but we have to fight the hardest enemies the game can throw at us. Though if we're mindful of our position as always, we'll come out on top just fine. This first wave is all agile enemies, so the most important thing here is not to focus too long on just one foe. We gotta split our efforts apart evenly, and then we can pick them off one by one. Next, the game throws a mix of both types at us, but we're more than ready for this. Really, they never stood a chance, so maybe whatever evil is waiting for us won't be so bad. Just gonna keep building up that false sense of security here. Either way, we're not gonna have to guess much longer. Well, this is quite a surprise, considering Heihachi is supposed to be dead, and this room's decal is also sort of a surprise. Something doesn't quite seem right here. Heihachi should be kicking our ass. No, something's definitely wrong. Come on, Heihachi, show us some vigor. And of course it wasn't the real Heihachi, it was clones manufactured by the G Corporation. The purpose of this boss fight is basically to teach you how to time your blocks properly. All 3 Haihachis will come at you at once, though they're not very synchronized at first. These guys can't exactly be scattered like normal enemies, so it's best to focus our efforts on just one, because they can be taken out separately. We've just got to put our safety before our bewilderment and our desperate need to know what exactly the hell is going on. Now that one of them is down, they will start attacking in a more synchronized fashion, though we can still keep them kind of separate. They seem to favor uppercuts, which is really bad news for us. Hopefully the clones we're fighting are the only ones in existence, because I do not think the world needs to face an army of Heihachi. It's very difficult to find an opening, but it's more than doable. They're also both invincible to throws, so being patient is really the only winning tactic. Considering all the pain the real Heihachi has caused Jin, this is probably somewhat cathartic. And we're just about done here.